Talked about seeing some signs of recovery in the economy, but just as those green shoots are ready to sprout, will the president and Congress throw policy pesticide on any turn with higher taxes and companies in that proposed card check union bill? Republican Congressman Charles Boustany is on the House Ways and Means Committee. It has jurisdiction on all things tax. And Congressman joining us now from Washington. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. We do appreciate it. The bigger point is this. If we are indeed seeing signs of economic recoveries, why is Congress and the president possibly throwing water on that by talking about higher taxes for companies, higher taxes for individuals, and also eliminating secret ballots for unions?
Well, first of all, let me talk about the companies and the president's proposal yesterday. We want our companies, our U.S. corporations doing business overseas to be competitive and to have a level playing field. And raising taxes on them is absolutely the wrong way to go. Currently, we already have a 35% corporate tax rate, which is the second highest in the world. And so,
and that's not including states. We got a graphic we can show our viewers right now because that's federal. You add in some state corporate taxes. We're only second behind Japan. And then you got a bunch of nations that are perceived as sort of a socialist business environment anyway, which aren't far behind us.
Well, that's right. And when you start raising taxes on corporations doing business, first of all, we make them less competitive, and it's going to kill U.S. jobs. And that's the important thing to remember as we're trying to come out of this economic downturn.
You know what I worry about, Congressman? You look at Halliburton. They moved to Dubai. Some people said good riddance. You know, their technical headquarters. Transocean Offshore, another oil drilling firm who I'm sure, being from Louisiana, you know very well off the coast, off the Gulf Coast, they moved their headquarters to Switzerland. Is there a risk of companies that are in a total global and multinational world, for all intents and purposes, setting up their shop, not just some post office, some mail stop, but a real headquarters outside the United States?
Well, that's the bottom line. What we're going to do is make our companies less competitive. If they can move, they'll move. The bottom line is, again, what we want is to retain U.S. jobs, and the best way to do that is to make our U.S. companies competitive, give them a level playing field, and to increase taxes on them is absolutely the wrong thing to do now.
But you have, Congressman, you have a very difficult job because it sounds great to come out in front of America and say, these big bad corporations have been dodging taxes. You're paying your taxes. They're not paying. They don't realize ExxonMobil paid $120-some billion in taxes last year. But it's a hard sell, is it not? Because most of Americans will say, yeah, these corporations need to do their fair share, which is a phrase we hear way too much of, I think, these days.
Well, again, we're talking about U.S. corporations trying to do business overseas and competing with foreign competitors. And if we make our companies less competitive, then what we end up with are less U.S. jobs. It's plain and simple.
Can you stop it, though? Because it's a hard sell, right? And you don't have control at all.
Well, we don't control the majority, but I'll tell you this, we're going to fight it. And I believe we can make the case to the American public who are more concerned about jobs right now than just about anything else. And so if we're going to come out of this economy strong, this downturn strong, we have to make sure that our companies are competitive.
And I have heard, you know, from a legislative perspective, something like this could be tacked on to the health care bill. We've seen that happen, right? You kind of horse trade and you say, well, you want that, but you don't want this. But if you want this, I'm going to put it in the bill, so you got to sign it. I mean, is that the way things like the energy bill, health care, and maybe this issue are going to get done?
Well, you're exactly right. Sometimes they do combine these things to try to push policy through, and of course you end up with all kinds of adverse side effects from it. But again, let me get back to this. The United States, in fact, operates under a different type of international tax system than other countries. And we're, in fact, the only country in the industrialized world, the only major economy working under this particular double taxation system. And what our U.S. companies need are a simplified system that doesn't doubly tax them, makes them more competitive, allows them to compete against foreign competitors, and allows us to grow jobs. That's the bottom line.
Listen, and I mean this in the nicest bipartisan way, but you get my point about the economy, it seems like, is getting a little bit better. You've got the energy cap and trade bill, which may come due. You got health care reform. You've got card check possibly. You've got this corporate tax reform act. You got all the major, these are not minor things. These are major changes. Why not just take a break? Or is this a mad dash because there's fear about what might happen in the 2010 midterms?
Well, I think there's a political calculation here, but I'll say this. If you try to do too many things at once, you're not going to do any of them well, and you really don't know what the ultimate impact will be. We have to fix health care, but I think we can do it with a free market system that will work well and make health care available and affordable for every American. And Republicans have a plan to do that. Card check is a job killer. There's no question about it. And this corporate tax change is absolutely the wrong policy at this time.
All right,
it'll kill U.S. jobs.
Congressman Charles Boustany, thank you very much for staying late and joining us tonight on America's Nightly Scoreboard.
Glad to be with you. Thank you.
All right, on deck, the writer who ripped the seams off the A-Rod story, Selena Roberts, joining us next to talk about her new book on the Yankee slugger. Some of the details might shock you.